When large jobs require moving massive amounts of snow, get the work done quickly and efficiently with the Western Pile Driver and all-new Pile Driver XL pusher plows, both featuring Trace Edge technology. These pushers scrape down to the pavement with an advanced cutting-edge system that has independent 2-foot sections that move vertically, oscillate, and trip. Get more jobs done faster with the Western Pile Driver lineup of pusher plows.
Mike Bott from Frost Solutions, one of the owners of the company. What we do is provide a mini weather station to give you a tailored forecast to those particular locations so you know where and when and what to do in those parts of town. You know there's 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 different ways that people can experience tremendous value having a technology like this.
Welcome to the Entrepreneurial Journey with your host, Dave Westcott. The Entrepreneurial Journey is a weekly podcast that streams live every Tuesday at 9:15 a.m. Pacific on Dave's YouTube channel and LinkedIn profile. Now here's Dave with this week's episode.
Good morning and welcome to the Entrepreneurial Journey. I'm your host, Dave Westcott, and I have with me special guest Mark Bradley, CEO, LMN, Chairman, LeanScaper. I think the LMN has changed since we put this together, huh?
Yeah, absolutely. No longer the CEO, just the founder. A whole new title for me. Back to where I started, just as founder. But there is a new CEO at LMN. His name is Mark Sedgley. He's been CEO of Single Ops for the past year, and as part of the merger, he is officially the CEO. And I am completely retired from LMN.
That's good. Congratulations. So you've had such an interesting journey. You went from, landscaping snow to software to now consulting. I mean, that's kind of what LeanScaper is today, right? It's kind of consulting, growing, business development, that sort of thing, lean principles.
Yeah. So the idea behind LeanScaper is really kind of 3-part. We're really building a community that really allows landscapers to come together and share best practices, seek out mentorship, and I think really just kind of eliminate the day-to-day. The easiest way to put it would be the loneliness that comes with being a business owner. We really wanted to create a community where like-minded people could just come together, communicate, share ideas, get a little feedback, ask questions, talk to people who have really just been where they're headed. I think that happens at industry trade shows, but it happens in small doses. And I think creating a community where that can just be the norm every day, where people can go and find what they're looking for or what they need, is kind of missing from the industry. So I wanted to create a community. And then I wanted to couple that with a mastermind program that really just allows business owners to follow along through a curated program that consists of like 50 weekly meetings. So every week it's a continuous improvement program where you're joining and you're working through a process of improving your own company.
Wow.
So it's for business owners and their leaders. And then part 3 to that is really software. So mid-year this year, we will be releasing sort of automated workflow management software that really just helps business owners and leaders minimize the middle management, or at least the demand on middle management, and really allow the field staff to operate a little bit more autonomously, giving them tools that allow them to manage labor, material, equipment, and subs without making phone calls, texts, emails, but rather using a workflow management software that keeps everybody up to date and really allows people to work a little bit more efficiently with less conversation, kind of automates the communication in a business.
Wow, that's awesome. So will that tie into LMN, or is this just standalone?
Both, actually. We're building the software to be standalone, and it will also integrate with LMN. So,
okay,
obviously not competitive to LMN in any way, shape, or form. It's a product that actually just allows you to use the data that we collect in LMN and that we forecast in LMN to really manage field operations in a little bit more streamlined way. All the things that LMN wouldn't manage, like triggering orders for materials or requests for equipment or booking days off, or all of these things that just happen in our business, which quite commonly in our industry, people try to write SOPs to, manage all of these things. But the reality is, and, I had a large landscape company. I wrote all kinds of SOPs, but I always knew where they went and where they stayed, which was, in a dusty shelf somewhere. And it's difficult to actually train people on SOPs and hold them accountable to SOPs. And so really what this workflow management software does is it kind of automates a lot of that. And sure, of course, we still have SOPs, but much fewer. And we really rely on AI generated technology to automate the workflows, as opposed to relying on people to memorize SOPs or standardize, a workflow that is highly fragmented and impacted by many people.
Wow, that sounds amazing. So you've been super busy. And when did you start to think about this LeanScaper? When did this start to come into your mind? How long did it take you to build it out?
Yeah, this is the crazy part. So 2006, we built this software for my own landscape company.
Okay.
And between that time, in the following 10 years, the company went from 6 million to 50 million. And largely because of what we had built in LMN and this other tool, which at the time, we called it our operations hub, is what we called it. And we didn't ever actually get around to building this software for LMN, just for a whole myriad of reasons. Investors weren't necessarily as bullish on building something quite as powerful and robust as I was.
Sure.
And also, I definitely was really waiting to capture the AI technology that was kind of always coming to market.
Yeah.
But over the past few years, the ability to develop and utilize AI for software companies has really changed. And I felt that it was time for us to layer that tool into what we've always been doing with LMN, utilizing AI so that we could be a lot more predictive and a lot more automated in the way that we operate day to day. When I had built that application years ago for my own landscape company, it was pretty basic. It was a web application that we had built that basically allowed field workers to touch buttons on a tablet to do everything that they'd ever need to do, rather than relying on standard SOPs. And it worked great, but it had its limitations. And I think what we're able to build now is definitely a lot different than what we had back then. So super excited. Just I think about the timing in the world and the way that technology's changed, particularly with AI. And so I would say over the last 2 years, I really started to rethink what we had built there in the past. And I started really putting a lot more emphasis around putting a plan together to build an automated workflow management system specifically for the landscape and snow industry.
I love it. I think that's fantastic. I also see, I see on LinkedIn, I see what you're doing there, very active, very busy. And it seems like you have a big focus on family, life outside of work. I saw recently you mentioned, you don't do anything without owning your calendar. Owning your calendar has been a big part of, life changes and that sort of thing. How does the way that you live your life and the way that you manage your business, how do those things intertwine today?
Wow, that's a great question. Yeah, I'm a real believer in an integrated life. And so really what that means to me is I need a balanced life where I put a lot of effort into everything that's important to me and the people that I'm providing for, the people that I love and want to help most in life. And so I think all humans feel a little overwhelmed. And I think many times when we're overwhelmed, it's because we just lack the focus and the clarity needed to really connect with our deeper purpose. And I think everybody has their own. I believe in God, and I believe that our purpose is to serve God and to serve others. And so as I started to really look very closely at my own purpose, what I started to think of is, how do I help other people? And, that was always very clear to me in my younger years when I started out in landscaping, that my two big groups of people that I was going to help were, I was going to take employees and I was going to help them create better lives for themselves. And so I hired a lot of street kids and a lot of people that, came from pretty humble beginnings, just like I did.
Sure.
And then the other group that I wanted to always help was our customers. I always wanted to help them solve their problems or get the things that they, need or desire. And so I think over the years, as I started to really think about how overwhelming it could all be running a business, trying to balance your personal life, I came up with this realization that ultimately I just wanted an integrated life where I had really, I think, fulfilling days that served my purpose of helping others. And I think over the years, we all get busy and we don't take care of ourselves, and we don't take care of our relationships, and we don't take care of our business or whatever happens because we're too busy. And that becomes a story. And I think that story is oftentimes holds us back. Many of us inadvertently hurt the people that we love most by running a business, or we hurt our customers inadvertently, or we hurt our employees inadvertently. And these things just happen. And so what I started to think about a lot was getting really clear on the purpose, really clear on the strategy, and really clear on the goals each year. And then just building an integrated life. And so that integrated life for me is pretty simple, really. I have 5 goals personally, and those are my business goals as well. I just, I feel like I live my life from within. And so I should create one set of goals. And so that's really what I've done. And what I did was connect my goals to my calendar. And so I only spend time doing things that serve my goals. And my goals are really simple. First off, I'm going to optimize my mental and physical health so that I can show up the best for all of the people that I serve. Second, I'm going to optimize my romantic relationship. Third, I'm going to optimize my relationship with family, friends, employees, coworkers, community. Fourth, I always want to be learning. I just want to be continuously learning and becoming the best version of myself. And then last, I'll work on optimizing my business. And so I kind of just built my calendar around those goals. And that's how I really decide to spend my time. And in that order. And I prioritize it, and I calendar a year at a time. And I know where I'm going to be and what I'm doing. But every week on Sunday night, I just sit down and revisit that calendar and make my tweaks for the week. But generally, a lot of recurring meetings, block time for each of those areas of my life. And that way, I just feel like I designed my life and then I get to live it. It's exciting.
I love that. And you know what? I love the goals. And I was actually doing, I do devotion time in the morning. I just focus. I believe in God too. I pray, I read my Bible, I do different things. And this morning I was thinking, there's 8 days left in the year, basically, before we start a new year. And I said, what are the top 3 things that I want to accomplish? Well, 1, I want to cross 600 miles ran this year. I'm at 566. 2, I want to complete the year with reading the Bible, devotion, journaling, strong, 8 final days. And then 3, I want to get in 1 hockey game with my son where we play together. I love playing hockey with him. And so I just found it interesting because when I was going through those goals, those are the top 3 things I needed to get done in the next 8 days. None of them had anything to do with business. I love how when I listen to your top 5 goals, the optimization is about the top 4 are about mental and physical, romance, family, and then continuing to learn, and business is last. And I think that when business becomes all consuming, it's almost when we lose focus on everything else. And I've got a question for you around that, because I love listening to what you share. I love reading your posts online. I love following what you do. And here's the question that I have, because this is what I see from a lot of entrepreneurs posting on social media or asking questions or being at industry events. And it kind of goes like this. Mark, if I didn't work round the clock, my business would fail and I'd let everyone down. I don't know how to get this life that you have. How do you answer that question when you're working with so many entrepreneurs?
Yeah, it is a big question, and I think my ability to answer the question probably resonates well with my peers in the landscape industry, because I'm pretty honest about the fact that I probably screwed this up as bad or worse than most people that I've met, in the sense that I went all in business. I put business at the top of that list for 15 years, and I ruined a marriage. I ruined a lot of relationships. I really significantly hurt my health. I had to lose 140 pounds. I definitely screwed up a lot of good relationships with employees and with customers. And I'm pretty honest about telling those stories, because I think my purpose now, and I can tell you this is 100% clear to me, is just to help other people avoid the mistakes and the pain and struggles that I either caused or went through throughout my own career. And at this phase, I definitely don't work for money anymore. I'm retired more or less financially. What I do nowadays is just purpose driven, and ultimately, what I like to do is help people avoid making the same mistakes, because I do believe in God and I believe in the ripple effect. And I think when we teach others how to avoid some of the mistakes that we've made, we're doing God's work. And ultimately, that's how I choose to spend my time.
I love that. For the 31 to 40-year-old entrepreneur out there who's in that kind of that middle of life grind, they're pushing, they're not taking care of their health, they're neglecting their relationships. What is the first thing they need to do to get on track? How do you even start putting that one step forward?
Yeah, it's a great question. And so what I usually try to tell people is this: you have to create a vision for your life. We have to begin with the end in mind in just about anything that we do if we want to actually find success. And so I find that many people don't have a vision for their life. It's scattered and it's here and there. And I think, ideally, even stretching out more like 25 years, which, one of my personal coaches challenged me to do last year, which was new for me. I was only ever planning 10 years at a time. Pretty good, solid 10-year plans, but I wasn't looking out 25 years. And I'm not saying you have to start at 25, but when you really think about it, beginning with the end in mind, even 10 years at a time, what you're doing is you're actually saying, in 10 years, this is exactly what I want my life to look like, and this is the impact that I would like to have had on humanity or the people in my life. Now, when I can clearly see what that looks like, then I can kind of design a life that allows me to enjoy and have a fulfilling life, but also create milestones each quarter, each year that gets me to that point in the future. And so it's kind of like reverse engineering in a way. If you don't know where you're going, you'll probably never get there.
Right.
So all I want to know is, what does life look like in 10 years? And then I can very simply say, what am I going to do this year that's going to reasonably get me closer to where I want to be in 10 years? And what do I want this year to look like? I don't want to just live for the future because there's no fun in that. I want to think about the 10-year while creating the perfect year in front of me. But I want to engineer my life so that I'm really living in the moment and I'm enjoying my life and I'm having the impact on the people that I want to have an impact on now. But I also want to be considerate of the fact that there's some things that I need to be doing this year that get me where I'd like to be in the future. I think what happens for a lot of people, particularly young business owners, and this happened to me, I got hyper fixated on the 10-year and I wasn't living in the moment. And I certainly wasn't treating myself good. I wasn't treating my family, my friends, my workers as well as I should, because I was always thinking, well, I have to do this for the future. I have to get this done. I have to grow. I have to build this next phase. I got to move to a bigger shop. There was always something. And I think what ends up happening to us is we end up thinking that there's just always this next peak that we need to get to. And when you live that way, you never actually live in the moment and you don't get to experience everything that's around you. And I think that is the problem for most business owners, is they're not actually enjoying where they're at right now enough to be focused. And when you're not focused, you can't really self-actualize. And so I think what ends up is we're always focused too far out in the future. It sounds crazy because I told you to start with a 10-year plan, but what the 10-year plan actually sets us up for is this ability to create a 1-year plan with quarterly goals that really, I think, just allows us to be more in the moment and appreciate what we're doing and how it's serving our long-term vision.
I love it. You talked about I believe you said you have your calendar pretty much laid out and fulfilled for 2025. Like, you know what you're doing in 2025.
Yeah, absolutely. I can tell you how many hours I plan to work in a year. I know, how many hours a week I'm going to spend exercising, how many hours a week I'm going to spend learning. It's just all planned. And so back to those goals, the 5 goals dictate my time blocking, and I use recurring meetings 7 days a week from 5 a.m. to 10 p.m. to basically engineer the life that I want. And so I've got huge blocks of time to spend with family. I've got my vacations all blocked out. I've got my daily workouts. I've got my daily gratitude. I've got my date nights. I've got all these things are just planned. And I design the perfect life, and then I put it into a calendar, and then I literally get to live that life. It's like I get to wake up each day and do all the things that I want to do, knowing that I get to live in the moment while serving my long-term goal. It's a integrated life. My work, my play, I can barely tell the difference. I just get to get up each day and enjoy it all.
It sounds amazing. Like, I love it. I love the calendar. I love the year. I love it being all planned out, the vacations, everything. I try to do the same thing. And next year, I'm trying to end my year by running the Honolulu Marathon December 14th and then spending a week in Honolulu. So that's kind of like, I try to do the same thing right there. I'm just deciding, I'm just putting the final touches on, do I want to do a full marathon or a half marathon in December? I don't know. We're just going to see how it goes. But I love that planning because it really gives you things to look forward to, but it also helps you set the stage and the expectation with family. And I think so often what happens is, as the leader or leading your family or, whatnot with your kids, like, sometimes your family doesn't know where you're going. Like, you might be great in business at, like, hey, we're running the EOS system or, whatever system you're running. Sure. And you've got your plans and everything's dialed in for your business, and you have your quarterlies and you have your weekly EOS meeting, but your family oftentimes doesn't know what's going on. And I think sharing that with the family so that they know what are the big moments. Our big vacation is, or, hey, we're going to take 3 small vacations instead of 1 big vacation or whatever. It also gives them things to look forward to and things to build towards. And it helps to build that excitement in the family. And then the family loves, I think, to do, great things. And what I try to task my family with is like, let's think of one really hard thing to do as a family. Like, what's something that we have to work for, that we have to train for all year that's going to be really hard, so we learn to look forward to things and push into the future. So I love what you're doing.
That's so good, especially as a family like that. I think, for many of us, and I think whether you're reading the Bible or you are reading something written by Tony Robbins or the Dalai Lama, everybody's going to agree on one thing: incremental improvement leads to happiness and fulfillment.
That's
and
right.
When you set those goals with your family together, that like you described, I think that's key, because now as a team, as a group, as a family unit, you've got something hard to overcome that you need to work through together. You get to celebrate that and see that incremental improvement together. And that's, I think, really what really creates the love and connection that every human is looking for. Ultimately, I think that when we do things that require a little extra effort together, we get to experience happiness as a group.
Yeah, we do. I think it's phenomenal, and it shows the kids too. If people have kids or whatnot, but it shows them, that you work hard for something and then you have some celebration. Like, work hard and celebrate. Work hard and celebrate. I think so many times, I watch the entrepreneurial journey, and I watch the entrepreneurs, and there's these little wins, and they just let the little wins pass by, and they get, so stuck in the, oh, I've got to make payroll, or, oh man, I can't believe I lost a key employee, or, oh man, I can't believe we wrecked that truck, or, whatever, we lost this key account. And it can be so negative that not taking the time to celebrate actually, I think, detours and harms the business and the family and your own physical and mental state. How do you manage and work through those sort of things when you're working with entrepreneurs?
The first thing I always recommend is taking the strategy that we just talked about, creating some clear goals for the year. And as I said, my high-level goals are always pretty much the same. But the things that I'm going to do each quarter to get an improvement are going to be different. And so I look at those like initiatives. And so what are my initiatives for Q1 2025? Well, if I'm in the business, for example, I might have an initiative to grow people and skills. And so for a LeanScaper, maybe in Q1, there's an initiative to grow people and skills, and there's another one in Q2, 3, and 4. I want to make sure I'm clear on what I'm doing in Q1, so my initiative's clear. I want to have a metric, and then I want to be able to measure that and make sure that it's done within a timeline. And so, everybody knows SMART goals, so they're easier to talk about than OKRs or EOS, so I'll just use SMART goals.
Sure.
Now, ultimately, what I'm looking for is a goal that's measurable. It has to be a goal that is time bound, and I want to assign it to the people that it's relevant to. And of course, we want to make sure that it's a reasonable goal. And so when we think about creating the goal and the metric, what I always coach people to do is always share the goals and the metrics and the timelines with everybody that it's relevant to. And then you get to celebrate together. You actually get to talk about the things that aren't going well with some ration rather than emotions. And then when things are going well, you get to celebrate. And, let's be honest, half the things that you want to go do may not go perfect, and the other half might be easier than you expected. The nice part is you get to celebrate the things that are going really well, and you build some momentum to put toward the things that aren't going so well. So usually what I try to say is being a metric-based company is actually more about creating fulfillment in the work and creating an opportunity for happiness, both for you as a leader and for your team, because you get to have rational conversations, you get to celebrate, and then you get to focus and do hard things together that you overcome together, just like we were just talking about with family. And so when I'm coaching small startups or massive CEOs of some of the industry's largest companies, I always speak the same language. Whether you're a startup or you're a massive industry market leader, you need to have really clear goals that everyone around you understand and they can measure, and you can meet and continuously improve using metrics instead of emotional reactionary management.
I absolutely love that. I've got one question with that. Let's say that the team is sitting around the table and they're putting together these goals, and maybe you've got 5 or 6 people on your leadership team. And let's say you get 2 or 3 of these individuals at the end of the quarter and they don't hit their goals. They missed them. They were far off from them. How do you manage leadership team executive members who are not hitting their goals? How do you work through that as a business leader?
Yeah, it's a great question. That's the best part about having a metric-based company is, first off, you know how far they are from reality very quickly. Yeah. So if we've got a target, I'll give an example just to speak to. It might be easier. If we had a target to grow revenue by $6 million in the trailing year, and that goal might be my goal as CEO. I'm going to say I need to grow the business by 6 million. I'm going to take the goal and I'm going to break it into pieces and I'm going to assign it to others. So let's say I've assigned $1 million to my snow division. Now I'm going to put that snow division target in front of the person responsible for revenue. If I've given them the goal and I've broken it down into a quarterly goal or a monthly goal, ideally, and they start to miss after 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, each week, if I'm doing a one-to-one with that leader, they should be telling me that they're struggling to meet the goal. And so if I actually have a good meeting structure in my company where I do one-to-ones with my direct reports, they're always going to have an opportunity to tell me each week that they're running behind, and they should be actually seeking advice or help from me to get it back on track. And so the way that I really like to manage is proactive. And so I'm taking the metrics and I'm actually creating leading indicators to avoid those types of problems down the road. And so what I like to do is when I give a target to an employee, I always like to give them leading indicators to manage too. So for example, if I said to that snow revenue leader, hey, listen, I want this extra $1 million in growth to come in between May 1st and September 1st. In Q1, what am I going to ask them to be doing in order to create enough pipeline for that to actually happen in May? Because if I don't actually have conversations about leading indicators in January, February, and March, then what are they possibly going to do all at once in May to get that revenue growth all at once? And so I create leading indicators ahead of time. So in sales, for example, I would be managing to the pipeline. I would be looking for them to build $3 or $4 million in pipeline during Q1 that we can activate and go out and really sell in Q2 and 3 when the active sales season's happening for snow contracts. But I have to manage them to something in Q1, and that would be building pipeline. So let's go out and identify who our customers are that we want to meet with. Let's site measure them. Let's build everything we can into the estimate software that we're using so that when May hits, we're not wasting time doing all that stuff. We're just out doing meetings. And I think when we really start to manage to the leading indicators, you don't end up with those hard conversations later where you've missed a goal and now we have to correct it. I think we actually just talk about it each week together. And then if we're off target at the end of a goal period, then we were off target together. And I think that's really what helps people set better goals. If I've set the goal and it's completely unreasonable and I've done everything I can to help that person and we can't reach that goal, then maybe it wasn't really an attainable goal to begin with. And so I think the more that we rely on systems to meet and leading indicators, the less likely we are to have those problems.
Man, that's fantastic. I mean, that is fantastic. I love how you're bringing that in and you're saying, hey, we're missing this together because we're working on it weekly. Nothing should be caught off guard or by surprise. I think that's fantastic. As we start to bring this in for a close, what if anybody is interested in LeanScaper and getting in touch with the new programs that you're rolling out, how can they do that? What's the best way to get moving forward with LeanScaper and what you guys are putting together there? Sounds absolutely incredible. I'm excited to check out this new software myself. How can our audience get in touch with you?
Yeah. So the free community, they can just sign up at LeanScaper.com and join the free community. There's lots of resources, free tools, frameworks, SOPs, lots of things for people to just tap into and utilize in the platform, job descriptions, job advertisements, all those types of things for the industry. A lot of the systems and processes that I created to run my own landscape business are all in there for people to use, kind of save people the headache of building a lot of the tools and frameworks that I had to build to scale up the business to a top 100 company. So that's all there. And then, we have the Mastermind Accelerator program, which is a paid program where you join up and go through a continuous improvement program that I lead personally for a year. And those would be the two best ways to get started for sure. And
awesome.
Find it at LeanScaper.com.
LeanScaper.com. I love it. If you're out there, take a look. Check out the LeanScaper. Get into those free resources. Check out those frameworks, those SOPs. Do yourself a favor. Absolutely terrific for your business. And check out the Mastermind. I'm sure that it'll change your business and change your life and take you to a whole new level. Mark, thank you so much for being on the show today. Any final words as we bring this in for a close?
No, none at all. But thank you so much for having me on, and God bless you and your family and everybody that's listening here today and in the new year and many years to come.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. We're back next week, 9:15 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. If you like the show, give us a like, give us a share, drop your comments into the comment box, and have a great, great afternoon. Thank you so much, Mark. It's been a pleasure.
All right. Thank you very much.
Mike Bott from Frost Solutions, one of the owners of the company. What we do is provide a mini weather station to give you a tailored forecast to those particular locations so you know where and when and what to do in those parts of town. You know there's 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 different ways that people can experience tremendous value having a technology like this.
Introducing the all-new Western Enforcer V-Plow. Engineered with all the features, efficiency, and performance of full-size Western V-Plows, built specifically for your half-ton truck. For more information, visit westernplows.com.